So I have seen that whenever someone points out that America is a stolen land on Twitter, a lot of white people gloat about it in saying that it was conquered and the natives were uncivilized warmongers. What was America like before the whites came in 1500? 1492. Yeah, that's when Christopher Columbus stumbled into the Americas and he imagined he had finally discovered India. Columbus was looking for India and he ended up discovering for the white people the Americas. Now, what was the continent like before the whites came in? And is it true that the what the whites say, that the natives were barbarians who were constantly fighting each other, killing each other, murdering each other, always doing warfare? They never built anything of any importance, and that's why they were inferior, savage barbarians who had to be civilized by the superior whites. That's what the narrative on Twitter is, and very prominent people espouse this narrative. Now, the question is, this claim that they make, that the Native Americans were barbarous, they were always at war with each other, always killing each other. Where does this narrative come from? It comes from the records written by the Europeans, in the European invaders. Now, the European invaders will do their best to justify their brutal, barbaric conquest of the land. Won't they? If you do something like the Portuguese when they did the Goa Inquisition, eventually they burned all the records of the Inquisition. Just a few records survive in Rio de Janeiro. Everything else was burned because what they did was incredibly brutal and horrific, genocidal. So they had to hide the evidence of their atrocities. Similarly, the European colonizers, the European occupiers of the Americas, they wrote records and testimonies to justify their brutal invasion and occupation of the Americas and their large-scale genocide of the natives. So you have to say that, right, to justify what you're doing, that these people were barbarians, they were killing each other, so we put an end to the killing. You will, see these records from the Spaniards, for example, in Mesoamerica, that the Aztecs, okay, they were brutal people. They practiced large-scale human sacrifice. They had these pyramids on which they would have these horrific sacrificial displays of human sacrifice. They would take a knife and cut a man's heart out and throw the body there, and they killed millions of people like that. That's what they claim. That's what they claim. What happened during the French Revolution? How many thousands of people were killed in the same manner in public? If an Aztec person were to visit Europe or France and Paris at the time, would he not say that the Europeans were bloodthirsty barbarians who sacrificed people for whatever reason? When the Europeans were burning witches alive, if an Indian were to go there, what would the Indian person see, and what would the Indian person recount? That the Europeans do human sacrifice for their religion, and the Europeans hate women. That's what they would say. Now the question is, how many people were sacrificed? Let's say it's a sacrifice, okay? How many persons did the Aztecs sacrifice per year? Let's see what this what the AI has to say. Estimates ranging from a few hundred to tens of thousands. Okay, best estimate. Best estimate. What's the best estimate? Common estimate, 1,000 to 20,000. Now, how many people are executed in China every year? How many people are? Let's see. Okay, how many people were executed? How many people were executed in England per year in the 1700s? Let's see. 100 per year, 6,000. So once again, we don't have the exact number. Bloody code. During the 1600s, let's see, 1600s. What do we have? Okay, 25 to 30 per 10, 100,000 people and so on. So the point is, maybe the Aztecs were simply executing war criminals, or war captives, or maybe criminals once a year. You bring them out. We don't know, but the Spanish said that these were all ritual sacrifices, human sacrifices. The Europeans committed human sacrifices. I mean, public executions are human sacrifices. So you can portray any culture as bloodthirsty, barbaric. I mean, look at the way India has been portrayed. We forced millions of women, allegedly, to burn themselves alive per year. That's what they claim about us, which is an utter lie. Sati was incredibly rare. Incredibly rare. But the common portrayal today on Twitter about India is that our ancestors burned their women alive routinely. So these stories are all, fabrications. I don't believe them. Now, what kind of land was America before the whites arrived? It was a prosperous land. After the whites arrived, about 90% of the population was genocided in a variety of ways. Some of it was because of European diseases. Much of it was because of just massacres and murders. But more than 90% of the population was genocided across the Americas, wherever the Europeans, captured the territory. So you had vast civilizations, very advanced civilizations. The Aztecs, the Mesoamericans, they discovered zero independently of India about 2000 years ago. They had calendars that went back that could tell you astronomical events centuries in the future. They had sophisticated poetry. They had their own education system. They had their own bureaucracy. That's the Aztec, the Triple Alliance Empire around Mexico City, Tenochtitlan. It was a vast metropolis. Imagine Venice with its canals, but 1,000 times larger. That sort of thing. They were very sophisticated. Down south in present-day Peru, etc., you had the Inca Empire. That was incredibly sophisticated once again. They had their own agricultural revolution maybe 10,000 years ago. And the Inca Empire, which emerged out of the coast of Lake Titicaca, it was also extremely prosperous, incredibly sophisticated bureaucracy, a very homogeneous population, a very effective bureaucracy, and very high levels of prosperity. All this was destroyed by the Spaniards. In the north, you'll be told that the natives of North America were all barbarians. They had big cities like Cahokia and whatnot, sophisticated, architecture. They had agriculture. They had in North America, it's all been destroyed. In North America, it's like they have destroyed and wiped out all traces of pre-European civilization. It's like it's just barren land. So it's been one of the great tragedies in human history what the Europeans did to the Native Americans. Yeah, and whatever you're told about it, it's all lies. We know the kind of lies they still tell about India. They did the same to the Native Americans.